What if I told you that the blessings that you are waiting for are already in motion, but there's something that you should be doing? I've been reading through the first 5 books of the Bible, and one thing that's clear so far from these scriptures is God always had a plan, right from creation down to when he delivered the Israelites out from the hands of the Egyptians. And that's where I want our focus to be for this video. God had a plan for exactly how he was going to pull the Israelites out from captivity. He knew exactly what Moses needed to say to Pharaoh and even to the Israelites. He had a plan for Pharaoh's resistance, from the plague down to the parting of the Red Sea for the Israelites to cross through. Everything was meticulously planned by God. And when they were finally released from captivity under the Egyptians, God had a plan to see them through the wilderness. When food was scarce, he made manna fall down from heaven. When they needed water, he made water to come out from rocks. He always had a plan, down to when they needed to build the tabernacle, the Ark of Covenant, the ephod, the garments that the priest would wear. He had very detailed plans for every single thing that they needed to do. The first thing that I observed from this is God was always with them. His continued instructions highlighted his continued presence in their lives. The fact that he always had a plan, he always knew exactly what they needed to do. He was always speaking to Moses, instructing him on what the Israelites needed to do, tells us that God was with them through every single step of the journey. And I found that quite sweet, because he didn't just deliver them from the Egyptians and say, okay, now you can go and figure out your own way, find, whatever land you'd like to settle in. But he walked with them through every single step of the journey. He stayed close to them, just like he stays close to us even now. But you see, what really stood out to me in all these scriptures is for every single plan God had, the Israelites had to move. The instructions kept coming as long as they kept obeying, as long as they kept moving. God's instructions would have stopped after the very first few if the Israelites had stopped obeying after the very first few. It was you go and do this and then I'll tell you what comes after. And then you do that and I'll tell you what comes after that. Now you've done that. Okay, here's the next step. Now you've built this. Here's the next step. Here's how you do this. It was a step-by-step process. Their obedience released more instructions. More instructions released more obedience. And that was how they kept moving. Now, taking this a step further, what was even more mind-blowing to me was the Israelites technically never had to figure anything out. Like, they didn't have to figure anything out because God had a plan for every single step of the way. And God's plans he wasn't just giving them instructions. He gave them such detailed instructions to the point where after a while, I have to be honest, I got tired of reading these specific measurements that, were required to build the tabernacle, to build the ephod, to build this, how many yards of garments is needed for this. Like, I got so tired of reading the details, but that's how much detail God went into for the plans that he had, for the instructions that he gave them. You see why this is so important for us? God had that much detail to give them in their instructions because the vision was always his. He had the vision for how they were going to be released. He had a vision for how the tabernacle should be built, how the Ark of Covenant, what it should look like. He had a vision for who his priests would be, what kind of garments that they wore. He had a vision for every single thing. The vision was always his. That's where it clicked for me. You see, I realized that sometimes we stress ourselves so much over the vision, over the plan, over the logistics, forgetting that our responsibility is simply the execution. It is not my job to come up with the plan. It is not my job to create the vision or to work out the logistics. Hear me, that part belongs to God. My responsibility is posturing myself in the place of prayer such that I can receive his vision and his plans for me, and then preparing my heart to obey. Now, I know this may not be easy to take in because a lot of the material that we see out there, a lot of the content out there will tell you to, have a vision for your life and have a plan for your life, have a 5-year plan, have a 10-year plan. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with having a plan for your life, with sitting down and strategizing and thinking of what exactly you would like to do. But one thing we know as God's children is with time, the more time we fellowship with the Holy Spirit, the more time we spend in the place of prayer, our desires will automatically or naturally start to align with God's desires for us. That's where that alignment is so crucial. Now, this won't always be the case, because I certainly have had moments where the Lord is asking me to do things that I really don't want to do, or stop me from doing things that I want to do. Trust me. But again, it's all about that submission. It's that surrendering. It's getting to a place where we can wholeheartedly say, not my way, God, but yours. This submission, this total surrender is only possible when we come to truly understand the place that God serves or should serve in our lives. And I have always loved the fact that God has so many different names. This is something that I practice a lot. I have a note in my phone where I document the names of God when I come across them, with their meanings, and I use them a lot when I pray, because for me, I'm speaking directly to the person that I need in that moment. So if I need provision, I call out Jehovah Jireh. If I need help, I'm like Jehovah Shammah, my ever-present help. So I really love to call out the names of God. But for the purpose of this video, one of my favorite names for God I've grown to love so much is Adonai. Oh, even the way it sounds, I love the name Adonai so much. And what makes it even deeper for me is the meaning of that name. It means Lord and Master of my life. And I think this is where a lot of us struggle, because we come into the faith, we are believers, we get saved, and we don't really understand what it means to have someone be the Lord and the Master of your life. You are relinquishing that control to God. You are saying, you know what, God, it is actually whatever you want me to do. It is actually your will, not mine. Christianity is not actually, let's not even get into that may be another video. But the point is surrendering and relinquishing all your control, so that you are aligned with his, so that you are living out his desires for you, his plan for you, his purpose for why he placed you on this earth. It's understanding that my life is not entirely in my hands. Well, it kind of is, but we'll get there in another video. But my life is not really in my hands. As Adonai, he orders my steps. He leads the way. He tells me what I need to do. And again, my only role is execution. I don't know how other people feel about this, but personally, I'm so here for it, because I don't like to make decisions. I wish my friends were here so they could tell you guys just how much I do not like to make decisions. I mean, I do it because I have to. I make decisions, I figure things out because I have to, but I really don't like to do it. I'm just the girl. So to have somebody take up that hard part for me is such a blessing. But here's the thing, I have to admit that I do not always go when he tells me to go. I'll put my hands up. It's that word go that gets to me. I don't always move as soon as he says to move. I don't always take action as soon as he says to take action. And one thing that I don't even want to say, because it's still such a painful pill to swallow, but one thing that I have come to understand is slow obedience is still disobedience. Oh Lord. But like the Israelites, I find that sometimes I still prefer to do things my way. I still prefer to, make a way for myself and move at my own pace. Not when you're saying I should do it. I'll do it when I'm ready, when I feel like I'm ready. That being said, I've experienced enough in my short time on this earth to know that sometimes the answers to our prayers are wrapped in the actions that we have still not yet taken. I don't like this one. I do not like this one at all. Some of the things that I complain about today, I'm still experiencing, perhaps because I did not move when God told me to move. I think about how you'd hardly find a person in the Bible that's received or enjoyed blessings from God without doing something first. Now, we have to be extremely careful here, because I'm not saying that we are in some sort of transactional relationship with God where you do this and then you get that. You do this and then this is your wages for the day, this is your salary. It's not that simple. Rather, in seeking God's kingdom first, which is what I'm hoping we're all doing. In seeking God's kingdom first, there will be actions that you inevitably would have to take at one point or another. When you are fully devoted to God's will, you're all out for, building his kingdom and serving in the capacities that he would have you serve. There are things that you naturally have to do. Now, God, the beautiful thing is God is so loving and so kind that he then wraps up blessings in the actions that we are taking. He would wrap up blessings on the other side of our obedience. Think about Abraham, who literally packed up his whole life. I still don't understand how he did that till today, because what do you mean I should pack up my whole life and go to somewhere that you have not shown me? Somewhere that I don't know. Abraham literally packed up his whole life and moved to somewhere that he did not know about. I think of Joseph, who wasn't necessarily interpreting dreams because he was expecting something in return. He just knew that he had a gift from God and was using that gift to the best of his abilities, even when he was in prison. Now, I'm sure when he got called to come and interpret Pharaoh's dream, at the back of your mind, you will know there's no way that you're going to interpret the dream for a king, and you will know that the king is probably going to give you something in return. I mean, I'm sure the thought crossed his mind, but regardless, Joseph was always diligent in his service. When he was in Potiphar's house, he served diligently and without always expecting anything in return. He just knew that he had a gift from God and he had to use that gift. We look at David, who was a shepherd. He was tending sheep diligently, a job that was looked down by so many, such that when they were looking for a king, they didn't even call him out. God, I wonder how he felt. They didn't even call him out as one of Jesse's sons. They overlooked him. He was busy diligently serving or tending to the sheep that he was looking out for. And I wonder sometimes if God would have still appointed him as king if he had approached his job as a shepherd with so much negligence. I wonder if God would have still elevated him. The point is, the blessings were often on the other side of obedience. The blessings were often wrapped somewhere in the actions that these people took. The blessings that we receive in our lives are often wrapped in the actions that we take every single day. Every single day we're faced with choices. You wake up, you decide whether you're going to the gym or not. You wake up, you decide whether you're going to do your work or not. Usually all those actions, the habits that we build are what bring about opportunities for us every single day. It's what will lead us down. You decide you're going to go to this event and boom, you meet somebody there that could possibly help you get a new job. God is so faithful and God is so kind that the way he divinely orchestrates our steps, it still blows my mind till today. There are some things that I have come to enjoy through, I personally could not have seen how A led to B or A led to C. I could not have seen the link there, but in doing A or in doing this one action, doing these sets of actions that God asked me to do, it somehow led to this. So that's the whole point there. It's taking action. It's understanding that every single thing that we do, God is so kind to bring about blessings through those actions. So I don't do this because I'm expecting something in return. Rather, I do these things that God has asked me to do. I carry out the instructions that he has given me because I am so committed to him. I am fully devoted to him, to building his kingdom, to serving him, to being a faithful steward over the gifts and the talents that he has given me. But because of history, I know that God is so kind that he always rewards the faithful steward. So the big question really is, what are you going to do? Don't forget to subscribe.